to address your specific,
Sorry about that.
one of your specific concern could be addressed by, I've seen this done where they paint, striping on the street lanes right in front of that driveway. And, and you say, do not block driveway entrance. And so people stacking up tend to then stay out of that striped box, right? Would be one thing, as well as a sign, could be used to address your concern, which is legit. But again, there'd be zero apartment traffic coming out at the store opening. And again, apartment traffic comes back at, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, we're going back in. So that's not an issue later in the day.
Okay.
Related question. It appears that this surface driveway comes out to the street further from the intersection, but it's connected to this parking lot.
Yeah,
Is that
Sean,
right?
that's a drive through. So that's a one-way in. So you turn left from Donna Drive, or you turn from Donna Drive into that driveway and go alongside the building, and then you exit into the parking lot of Bruce Company.
Oh, but it's not a Bruce Company driveway?
It's a one-way driveway into the parking lot.
Okay.
So it's one way.
It would be for use by like a bank teller or a bank tenant on the first floor there.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that's the purpose of it.
Why wouldn't that also be used by customers coming to the Bruce Company retail outlet? If you can
I
get
think
in
it would just,
and drive that way, why wouldn't they?
Because it's a drive-through. There'd be, drive-through teller lanes,
Okay, all right, I see.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we got to keep in
I
mind.
think what
this is
I'm
all-
hearing is that
I want to say one big thing, big picture here. Again, this is conceptual in terms of it's GDP level stuff. GDP is really about the density, the land uses, the overall plat. What we're talking about right now is really the SIP level information. This is really not appropriate for GDP. GDP doesn't go into this level of detail. Now, we're happy to do it, but these are the kinds of things that we will have to work out, right, and go through in detail with you at the SIP level. So let's keep that in mind, that we shouldn't be jumping the gun here. We should be keeping in mind this is a GDP level.
Yeah, I just think, at the time that somebody says, oh, the GDP approves this building in this location with this footprint, they've also said this driveway needs to be built right here.
Well, the driveway is already approved, Sean. It's guaranteed and it's grandfathered.
I appreciate that. That's what I was hearing, is that you're going to have Veerbicker research that this is the same driveway as
Yes.
existing. And
Yes.
preferentially to show me that it's also conforming to the plat access restriction. I think that'll be a good starting point.
Yeah, again, at the SIP level. We are not required under ordinance to do that at this time.
Well, but I think then the council needs to make it a contingency, because if the TIA says this is a train wreck, I don't think the city's going to be interested in building it just because they said, yeah, GIP wise, we're fine.
So the location of these driveways on the GIP does not guarantee them for the development. It is a GIP. Only an SIP approval would guarantee them. So the only thing being approved is the density, the zoning, and the plat. It is not these level of details. So even if we show them, it doesn't mean they're guaranteed for the development, because you have another kick at the cat when we come up for the SIP.
Maybe I was misunderstanding earlier. I thought Seth said that it's critical that it be right here.
Wherever it is existing today is where they want to keep it. And we'll we wanted to confirm what your concern, which is that it's drawn in the location shown, in the actual location. We do want to confirm that for you.
Right. So I kind of feel like I'm hearing two things. I feel like I'm hearing we're gonna put it where it is, regardless of whether it conforms to the platted access restriction. And we're not worried about that right now. Let's push that down the road to the SIP.
That is correct.
Sean, for clarity, could you go up to the existing conditions drawing? That might show it.
That shows
Good
it sort of
point, yeah.
here, right?
Yeah, it sure does.
And on the next drawing, so here.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we should get Veerbeck to correct that. And that's a good catch, you know, because it should be shown on the plans exactly where it is today. Can you show side by side, Sean? Are you able to do that?
I don't know that I can pull up two of
Yeah,
them
yeah, I don't know either.
at the same
Okay,
time.
well, we'll double check. As I said, we'll make sure that gets fixed on the drawing.
yeah, that's totally different.
Okay. Yeah, it looks
Totally
a
different.
little different. Yeah, different scale, but it looks different.
And that would be
Make it-
even more problematic with my question. That would be problematic today if it were as the scheme, the future plan is.
Um,
Well, it's got to go back into that location that you see right there where the hand is. Which means
Yeah.
the new drawing is not correct,
Yeah, we need to get that fixed.
which affects the buildings, actually. Those are buildings there.
Yeah, the building shape will have to change.
Okay, and then all I'm saying is, and it sounds like you're agreeing
Good
to
catch.
it, the TIA is going to inform further what's the operational effect of this land use change without.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so that's it. We'll get that fixed. That's a good catch.
All right, let's move on here. We still have a lot of
Okay.
ground to cover here.
So then I requested showing curb ramps and crosswalks, that kind of thing, just so we know where
Yep.
pedestrian connections are, move a
Yep.
sign intersection area.
So
And that'll take a
again,
sign
this-
package later, but I did want to bring it up now.
can you go back to the other drawing, Sean, to see? Let's just so yeah, okay, you see the sign there? I think it's that dark bar, horizontal bar.
It's difficult for me.
Right there, right there. I think that's it. Right, Seth, is that it? Seth?
Yeah, I'm trying to determine which one that consists of.
I don't know. Yeah, none of those look very sign-like. I
Yeah,
think these are the pillars for the fence that goes around.
yeah, right. Well, we should get the sign. Why didn't they show the sign on the survey? Well, Jake, let's make a note. Let's get that on the survey. And make sure it's in the location that it is today.
I think the main sign is here.
Odd.
Right, correct. The main sign is right where your hand is. So I want to make sure we determine what sign does that consist of the other one, but our main sign is where your hand is.
Okay. Yeah, and I think you've got the decorative fencing around this corner.
Yeah,
Mhm.
all right, we'll figure that out.
Anyway, so the next one down, just kind of working clockwise, is to show a driveway apron no wider than city standard and to align it with the truck dock. This looks to me like a truck dock over here.
Yes, that is correct. So Sean, our question there for you is the trucks are going to be pulling east on that street, right? And then backing in at an angle, right? So how much apron are they allowed to have in order to back in at an angle? You kind of know what I mean?
Well, that's harder for me to say. I don't know what this truck dock use is. It seems a potential source of conflict to have someone backing out of an angled parking stall and a truck sliding in sideways and people using this driveway in this intersection, all within 150 feet. So I had some concern with, frankly, the width of this driveway looks really commercial / industrial. But if it's also a heavy pedestrian area, that's a pretty big conflict zone.
Well, yes, I understand, but Bruce Company has trucks. What size trucks do you have, Seth?
We have every range of truck, but the trucks that would be coming in here would be plant deliveries, product delivery.
Like what length?
There'd be full semi length trailers coming in here delivering product regularly.
Okay.
Right.
So Sean, maybe what we should do is have Veerbecker kind of draw like the turning radius or something of a semi, you know what I mean? And plot that on here. Would that be helpful?
because I raised it as a policy question. I'm not here to say yes or no. I'm here to say this is a concern of staff and I recommend we don't do this. If somebody
Well,
else recommends that we do this, that's
Well,
okay.
let me go back again to, okay, you're the engineer, so tell us what truck turning radius should be, you know, the technical aspects so that we can get this correct. They have to have trucks accessing their building.
And does it have to be off of this public street, this close to another
Yes.
driveway and an intersection and backup angle parking?
No, it has
Yes, because there's
Okay,
gonna
well,
be,
then I-
because the
then I think it's-
store is right there. That's the store.
Okay, well, I think
So
that,
again, remember,
They-
this is 12 months of negotiation with city staff. All this, you know, various city staff were involved in this, and this was a compromise. The Bruce Company doesn't want this public street. They don't want this street at all. Bruce Company has existing B3 zoning. So the alternative for the Bruce Company here is simply take the lots they have, sell off a lot on the Beltline for a 6-story motel. You know, we can put funeral dealership, you know, a car dealership here, truck dealership in here, funeral parlor in here. These are all approved zoning. Go pull a permit today and not have a public street. They could put the Bruce Company building right on top where the public street is shown right now. They don't want the public street. But as a compromise in negotiating with the city staff over 12 months, we all, city staff and Bruce Company, everybody compromised and came up with this, you know, system that works. Now we're willing to potentially reduce that access to the minimum needed to get the truck in there. And we'll have Beerbecker plot that on. But again, this is at the SIP level. This is just conceptual in terms of this stage right now. You're only talking about land use, the lots, and the density and the zoning. That's all we're talking about today.
well, and part of what we're talking about is you have to have these truck docks right here with a wide apron.
We have to have it wide enough to get a truck in, backed in at an angle, right? Coming in at a 90-degree angle backwards. I
Okay.
don't know. I think maybe it could be reduced in size, frankly. It seems to be pretty big to me, but let's find out what that should be, right? To minimize it for us in the city.
We're fine with focusing on one at a time and managing accordingly, because it's not that often that we have them backed up. And it's seasonal is our biggest factor, but we do need an area, because this is really our only building that's focused on the Bruce Company. So when you look at that building that they're backing up to, that's the Bruce Company's building. And so there's not many other opportunities for us to receive product other than that location.
Right, so, and the city might like this. I'm just drawing a circle around it to bring it to people's attention that I look at this and I view this as a safety problem.
Mhm.
That's all.
Yeah, we'll take another look at it.
And again, you know, this one is, the next one is the kind of thing that the city also will have to make a policy decision on, but I'm here to say that the management policy that the council adopted says that driveways in this configuration compared to this intersection should be clear by 170 feet.
So again, just for background, the Bruce Company there are multiple driveways on Parmenter Street. They're giving up, you know, and they're reducing the number of driveways, and they've put the public street. If you go back to the existing conditions drawing, Sean, the Sampler Square, yeah, that's a shared driveway between Sampler Square and the Bruce Company, and the Sampler Square property is under contract by the Bruce Company to be acquired by the end of this year. So it's one shared driveway, and that's roughly where the new public street's going. I can't say for certain it's exact where
I
the
think,
public street.
because here's that median opening and it's pretty
Yeah,
well.
there you go. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
You know,
Yeah.
so this is not the one that freaks me out, because I think if there's a queue stacked up here, these people are just trapped.
Right, let's just wait.
The biggest issue that you're gonna face is, you know, people are gonna wanna come in and make a really quick turn in here. but all they're gonna be doing is slowing down. Frankly, they should be slowing down anyway. So I'm not freaked out. I'm pointing out, this is a policy question. These signs should get moved from the right of way. If they're currently in the right of way, they shouldn't stay there.
Okay,
Um,
sure.
We should have a terrace area between parking stalls and sidewalks in
Yes.
general, throughout that.
Yeah.
This pond shouldn't straddle a property line, so we should know if that's a public pond or a private pond.
Well, again, this is the Latitude Graphics property you're pointing at. The city is trying to acquire right now. There'll then be a property swap between the city's Latitude Graphics property and the Sanford Square property to reconfigure the property lines. So I wouldn't worry about property lines right now because those are going to change as soon as the city acquires Latitude Graphics, and then they, will get reconfigured based on a final approved plan with the city.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. I think I was looking at a different drawing where this made me think maybe it's a park and maybe it's a private lot, but it's the same.
Well,
lot. And
yeah,
so-
we can, again, this was just okay, go back, wait, go slow down. Go back to the park drawing with the red
Oh,
lines.
it's a park.
Okay. Oops.
Oh, there we go.
You're going so fast. Okay, right there. So this was simply conceptual to add, get a rough idea of how much parkland. But, I wouldn't take that red line as the property line, but it's a good point you've made, and we will, the red line would meander right between the building and the pond, right? But again, this exhibit was for a different purpose. It was not exhibiting the property lines per se. But we'll get that, Jake, make a note of that, and we'll get that, drawn out.
I see.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I had the mistaken impression this was attempting to show the public park.
Just, yes, but in terms of acreage, again, everything, once the Latitude Graphic property gets acquired by the city, then there'll be a discussion about, what does the city want to do in terms of the property line,
I see.
We don't control where that red line is shown right now. We don't have control of that. This was purely conceptual. This was just to show the overall big picture if the city acquires the Latitude Graphics site. Our submittal, the legal description, our submittal does not include that area that you're talking about.
Okay.
The park acreage is how big? 3 acres? Is that what I read?
The park is
5.2.
5.2.
Oh, I thought
Yeah, I'll just say, this is Robert, that's pretty fictional. There's a lot of stuff thrown in there, what appears to be all the stormwater management of the buildings is shown in this area, so that's not parkland. So I would hesitate to guess that if you keep all of the stormwater management tools in this area, your parkland is reduced to about 2.5 acres, less than 3, I would think.
And that's for 880 housing units in this project, plus the 700-room hotel, plus that park would be utilized by people in new developments to the west and north of the Bruce Company. And I assume kitty corner to it on Donna Drive and the Beltline across from Culver's, where there's a big new apartment building going up. Also, there's no parkland over there. I mean, it seems to me, and maybe this is beyond the purview of the Public Works Committee, but
Yes.
it seems to me that it's pretty light on parkland and open space.
Again, the parkland is going over and above what the city's original goal is. Number one, the stormwater pond is not needed by the Bruce Company. This Bruce Company's site is Zone B3. They can pull a permit right now for development. They have almost no permeable area. Almost their entire site is impervious. So a new development that is being proposed actually creates less impervious area. The requirement would be if you increase impervious area, you would have to create a stormwater pond. So this pond is not required. What we're proposing, again, going above and beyond the call of duty to create a pond that's shared with the city. It does serve a regional purpose as well as detaining some water from the Bruce Company proposed development. But again, the impervious area requirement is such that they don't need to build a pond. So there's also parkland, lots of parkland has ponds in it. Just because there's a pond doesn't mean you deduct that from the parkland.
Yeah,
That's-
but Terrence, this is Robert again. We've made it, I think the city has made it pretty clear that if you say you don't need any of these ponds, get rid of them because they are,
Okay, fine.
we are not basically stormwater retention areas. We don't have those private stormwater retention areas in parkland. And what we would do is we would basically carve out an area around it up to the street or something and say, okay, that's all your area, which then means it cannot be counted as
Right,
parkland.
right. Okay, we'll get rid of it.
5.12 acres is listed is somewhat fanciful. And because it's like double counting. It's like, oh, we get credit for this for parkland, but by the way, we're using half of this space for stormwater. And it's like, well,
That's not
you just want to make sure that you understand and that we understand as we're looking at both GIP and SIP considerations.
Right.
That we're all talking about the same thing, because it's not good for you and it's not good for us to have big surprises later on. I want to make sure that we're not making certain assumptions now that are woefully inaccurate.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take it off.
Yeah, definitely take it out because
Okay.
that's too
Fair
many
enough.
people living there to have a significant amount of parkland is water that they can't do anything with other than really look at it.
Terrence, I see like 4 or 5, maybe 5 or 6, like 5 green. They're not circles, peripheries. I don't know what you call them. 5 shapes that are in green, and one shape that's in blue, and then an oval that's was labeled on another thing, an ice rink.
Yeah.
So, are you going to be getting rid of all 6 of those? The 5 green and the 1 blue?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because then when the other groups, the other committees look at this, they can say, okay, where does stormwater go? And if the answer is not here, great. Where does it go instead?
Mhm.
But that way we're at least all talking about the same thing and not one group thinking one thing and another group thinking another.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Sure. No problem.
So continuing clockwise here, I'm recommending eliminating this mid-block crosswalk.
Okay.
In favor of this one that's already here and sort of
Okay.
sent. If the city wants a mid-block crosswalk, I think this is a better place.
Sure.
And then 150 feet away or so, move this one over to at least the curve or,
Okay.
where there's kind of an intersection.
Sure. Okay. No problem.
And where we do have crosswalks, there should be a curb ramp, a standard curb ramp.
Yes.
Instead of, I don't know, sort of a driveway looking thing.
Yeah, it is weird.
We really shouldn't have parking within a functional intersection. So that if someone's, pulling out here, there's not someone backing into them and they just didn't know each other was doing something. So we typically shy away from that.
Okay. That's a good point. Yeah. It's a good catch.
Avoid driveways on street curves.
Yeah.
Again, the city may allow that. I'm just
Yeah.
here to say that this is a warning sign. If the city wants it, they should understand what we're getting into.
So this one, Sean, you remember this street doesn't exist. When it was first drawn, it had a much more of a right angle, like a hard 90-degree turn, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that the driveway could line up, properly from one side or the other, and then we were instructed to soften that curve, make it more of a free flowing. And so then the driveway was, still at the corner. So, if you want us to move it, I don't know, where, where do you put it? Because it's such a big soft curve.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I can't
Yeah.
say it's the most dangerous thing I'm seeing on this drawing. I'm just saying it's something of concern. So the city ought to go into this with their eyes open if they want that. I didn't know what this sign was for, if it was made to just say that this is a city dog walk or what. And that'll obviously be fleshed out later.
Well,
And-
no, that's the
Perfect.
existing Bruce Company sign, which again, that is grandfathered in. They intend to
highway
retain
sign?
that. Yes, the electronic sign.
Okay, well, that's helpful.
They're gonna keep
Um,
that.
Yeah, I would think the city probably is fine with that. To explain the need for this path. Oh, that was thinking that there's already a path interfacing with the street right here. So this whole path basically just makes a loop from the street to the street. And it sort of maximizes maintenance responsibility without really providing much connectivity. There's already a sidewalk going east-west along this driveway / parking lot building. And then this just duplicates that, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
So
I mean, it
just
was
seems like a
to give
cost
more
saving.
access. It was to give more access to the dog park, but if you want to reduce the access, we can reduce it.
Well, I mean, it looked to me like money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maintenance.
John, I would say,
I mean, we could maintain that or something if you wanted. I mean, it's,
yeah,
the idea there was to keep the pedestrians out of crossing the driveway that goes down into the garage of the building. So it's a safer, point of getting to the dog park. Frankly, I don't think, for that building, we could set it up where that building maintains that piece of asphalt. I don't think that's a big deal if you want, but if you want it gone, we can do that too.
Yeah, well, and you may learn from the park board whether they want this to be a park or not. I don't know.
They do want a buffer there. Yeah, they've said so.
and the dog park needs to clearly be as public as possible. So it's not interpreted by the average citizen as
Mhm.
a private dog park just for that particular apartment building.
Right. Well, we could put, that's a good thing, Susan. We could put a sign, out at the street point there, and say public dog park or something,
It would need something because this is a little tucked behind a couple buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
On the plan, it looked very public.
We can do that.
And then, I think Robert was already discussing ponds, but maybe that's resolved because this is a pond on park property, but I can't tell what parkland is draining into it. There is, I believe, an existing driveway that connects to the cul-de-sac that would have to be extended out to the street when you vacate the right of way and obliterate the cul-de-sac.
Well, the circle in purple you have, that's on the adjacent property owner's property.
Yeah, but when you're taking the street away from them, I think you need to extend their driveway out to the new street.
Oh,
right?
I see. Yeah, got it. Jake, you got that one? If that's where the cul-de-sac is, Jake?
Yeah, I can have your back.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
And this, I was just calling Laura Lane. Is there a thought that the street would change names across the intersection of Donna Drive?
Yes, we would like a different name than Laurel Lane. That
It
would
might
identify the neighborhood.
Yeah, so that's going to be a policy question too. I would have thought that it would stay Laura Lane. So
Yeah.
if we're proposing something different, I think the city should take that on. And then the last thing on this sheet, not really with a leader arrow, is just to provide some typical cross-section drawings for the proposed public streets that conform to city standards. I think we talked about that already, but it's a note on here.
So that one, Sean, is something we should talk about. Can you tell us about, we're thinking about, okay, what are our options? And we were told there's something called a Main Street option. We couldn't find it in ordinance or whatever. Is there something you could tell us about? There's like 12 different street profiles we could choose from.
Yeah.
With the Main Street option, not knowing what that is, would that be one that would be appropriate here? I don't know.
That's the one that looks sort of like this, and Elmwood Avenue just a little bit west of your downtown redevelopment, you know, where there's angle parking on both sides by Valencia.
Yep.
And then it's got a street you know, through traffic in between angle parking. That's what's called Main Street.
Okay.
So it's got sidewalks, angle parking, driving lanes, room
Okay.
in those driving lanes for bikes, that sort of thing. It had been
So that's-
considered at one point for Tribeca, but it didn't pan out to build it that way.
Mhm. So is that something that would be appropriate here? Or is there a different profile that we should be looking at?
Well, that I don't know. It depends how much on-street parking you're shooting for, I guess.
Well, as much as possible for the public for using the park, you know?
Yeah, so that's, you know, I mean, this is what's proposed in plan view, but what I don't see is a cross-section of it that conforms to the city standards. So
Yeah,
if
again,
you're
that'll be
proposing
done at the-
sidewalks and angle parking and through lanes, then yeah, then you're talking about the Main Street cross-section.
Okay, well, we'll look at more closely again. Again, this is the GIP level. It's not the SIP level. But let's take a look. We'll take a look at with Beerbecker at the Main Street option, see if that's appropriate. You know, we could certainly get rid of the angle parking on the north side of the street and go to parallel parking and give you a little wider drive aisles. But, you know, what we don't want is we don't want, you know, Parmenter Street. We don't want a 100 to 110 foot wide street here. You know, we want the appropriate neighborhood level, local street, not, you know, an arterial collector street. This is only a 2 blocks long street. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and that's why I think in 2005 and 6, the city spent considerable time at many committees fleshing out what sorts of widths are appropriate for various types of streets, so that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel every time these questions came.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look at that Main Street one as well as other options, and again, we don't need to do that level of detail right now. We just need, you know, we just are showing the concept of a public street here on the GIP level, you know.
Is the little parking lot down below where the hand is that intended for the park, or is that intended for that building?
That's intended as a parking lot that the development there would even be willing to pay for, but the park could be public. There'd be an easement for use of it at night by that building. You know, if there are apartments above, they use it at night. They would need it during the day, but then during daytime, it can be used for the public. So it's a shared benefit there. Trying to, again, reduce the amount of parking lot and asphalt areas so that the park is green and not, you know, not all asphalt.
That being the case, you might be able to switch to parallel parking on the north side of the street there.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the Main Street option, yeah, and see what works, or other options.
Okay.
But again, we don't need that at this level. So.
The next sheets aren't as intensive, so that's the good. That last one was sort of a big sheet full of recommendations. This one begins again, sort of clockwise, just with a recommendation to deflect this driveway more to the south.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to reinforce people coming south cannot turn in here. So it's a little pork chop.
Yes.
The city should consider not allowing buildings or parking lots within an environmental corridor. That'll be a policy level discussion, but this dashed line that sort of wends its way through the site is an environmental corridor mapped by CARPSI. I think it's up to the city to implement what that means exactly. But I think
we've already, Sean, we put the buildings outside it, as you can see. So
is this a building? What, I don't know.
Well, that's just the concept of some kind of amphitheater, you know, or something for the city. That's, again, up to the city if they want to do that or not. It's just a concept.
Yeah, so that's consistent with this note, is it's up to the city, but staff is pointing it out that the city should be aware of what's in the environmental corridor.
Yeah, that'll be decided later when the city acquires Latitude Graphics.
I don't know, and you'll no doubt discuss this with the park board, but it may not be desirous of asphalt that's porous. It has had sort of a mixed review for maintenance and longevity. So,
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I would highly avoid that. You're right.
so I'm just not sure. I mean, usually the land surrounding paths is relatively porous, and so that 10 feet may not be the make or break for saving the creek.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jake. Let's make note of that.
Yeah, at least talk it over with the park board. It's not for me to say, I'm just noting things. I didn't know if these were intended to be restrooms. They just said public. And
Well, again, it's up to the city, but the concept would be some kind of, building where people could put on skates or rent skates. And summertime, there'd be, a space there for kind of like Tenny Park, right? And a space for use for different kinds of events and things, maybe a wedding or a public event or something,
but some sort of shelter building, maybe. It
Yes.
just said public.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing's public. I didn't know what that meant. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's just a
to
concept.
Just to jump in real quick, Sean, the design of the park actually in including the building and the ice rink and the amphitheater the stage that's within the environmental corridor, all that stuff, and even including the stormwater ponds that are shown is all based off a drawing that we got from the city. It was like a conceptual park idea. So, we haven't made many modifications to this. This was just something that we drew up based on the city's drawing. So.
Sure.
Yeah, the Van de Waal drawings, we just took that and applied it here. So,
Which is fine with me. I don't have the full history on this stuff like you guys do. I'm just asked to review drawings that do show up in my inbox, and these are what showed up in my inbox. So, and then my last one on this sheet was just to consider if we're going to build something like this to orient it so we could maximize seating. That it seemed like we could use this as a seating area, but then it's not oriented to the stage. That's all. So.
I think the point about restrooms is well taken too. There are no other restrooms in that entire park area. And there need to be some somewhere in a park that size.
Probably. And I would hope the park board would get into that at some point of what does it mean?
the idea was that you could, if you're riding a bike along the corridor path, you could cross the bridge here, then get to those restrooms. Or vice versa, if you're north of here and you take the bike path down Laurel Lane, you could hit the restrooms and then you could get onto the bridge that accesses the, the corridor.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. On here on grading, I didn't have a lot, just to verify no stormwater runoffs going down the bank. That's been a source of endless fun for trying to maintain that bank. So if we build a berm along the top of bank, that's been relatively effective at helping control erosion. To capture it someplace up top and convey it down to the bottom with pipes instead of just letting it run. And the path as drawn seems to follow very closely and sometimes get into this really steep bank. So that looked to me like an area in need of caution too, that any erosion is likely to bring this path down with it. But also, if some kid riding their bike goes off the path, they may not be able to recover until they get to the creek.
Again, this was a Van de Waal drawing.
Yeah.
And we just took it and popped it down here. So you had a reference to the whole thing. And we kind of feel like, we're being punished a little here by making it convenient to see,
Well,
that. And also want to point out that.
Let me reiterate, these are the only drawings that I was reviewing. So my recommendation here is to relocate the path at least 10 feet from the top of bank.
Okay, well, talk to the city.
Yeah.
That's not our business. It's not for us.
And Terrence, you've got a point there, but it's confusing to council because we see this and we think this is how you're going to do it. So
Yeah.
if this is going to be parkland, just leave it blank and label it parkland.
Okay, good idea. I like that idea. It's a very good idea. Also, point out
Then
one other
it
thing.
implies the city will be developing it how they want
Yes.
to as
Yes.
opposed to you telling us how you want to develop.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I like that. One other thing is there's a area, Sean, here of the conservancy that the Bruce Company owns. And it's Bruce Company, yes, that, yes. So the Bruce Company is willing, as part of the approvals, is willing to dedicate that, donate it to the city. The city has asked for a temporary construction easement for they're doing some, what do you call it? Embankment restoration, I guess is the words I'm trying to look for. And they have
Repairing
plans to
storm
go ahead with
damage.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you. So the city's asked, for an easement to do that. Again, the city's going to be doing that. Bruce Company's not going to sign off on any easements until, we get approvals here. But again, I just want you to know that the city has plans to do the restoration.
the city does have plans to do the restoration. We just won't unless there's an easement allowing us to do it. That's just the nature of the beast. So I get that if we don't want maintenance done here by the city's contractor, I'm prepared to skip over this piece. Next page doesn't have a lot either. It just had a suggestion, recommendation to reconfigure the pond outlet from this pipe going all the way out there to just connecting it into this pipe that's already here. Showing a loop for the water main instead of a dead end. Showing the existing sewer main on the utility plan. Showing storm sewer that picks up these inlets and drains them someplace. I couldn't figure out offhand what the need for this sort of interblock water main is. That might be a good way to save some money if we don't need it.
Yeah, we'll check with Veerbeck on that.
Yeah, it didn't look like any buildings were proposing to take their service from it, so I just wasn't sure why it's there. And then, well, one of my recommendations in general is to for the developer to fund a city evaluation of the water and sewer capacities to make sure that we can support this land use.
Yeah, so we're fine doing that, Sean. But we want Veerbeck to do it. We are not going to allow Strand to do this stuff. They charge triple, and I'm not exaggerating. They triple their fees when a private developer is involved. They take advantage of us. They take twice as long, and they don't follow DNR standards under the statute. So I have a real problem with Strand and a no bid contract being given to them. So you either can bid it out, or we can have Veerbecker do it, and you can review it.
Well, as you know, Strand has our water modeling. And while they could certainly share that, it gets us back to the old model. And well, you and I have both been through the old model where you can hire Veerbecker to produce a report, but then you also need to hire a city's review agent to make sure that we have an independent city-led review of your consultant's work.
And that's fine. And the city should get some, competing bids or something, because Strand is taking advantage of the situation. And we have spent way too much money with them, triple what every other engineer has said it would cost. And we've gotten quotes on other work that we've had done that we've had to go through Strand. And it's not right that they're doing this. And as long as they get to continue their no bid, status with the city, they're going to keep doing it until somebody stops them and says, no, your hourly rates should be no more and your number of hours should be no more than, Veerbecker or any other engineering firm, Mead & Hunt or anybody else. It's just not right. We're spending a ton of money with them because they're taking advantage of us.
I'll
figure out a way to have them.
I'll leave the comment as
bid it out
without adding names to it.
Yeah.
Yes,
and that's fine as long as we understand it's.
Yeah. The note that you have to the far left about reconfiguring. So we just talked a little earlier about removing
We'll get rid of that.
those circles what does that do to those purple lines, one going to the blue, one going to the green, if those ponds possibly don't exist?
Well, the storm sewer would get reconfigured.
Okay,
And until there's a different proposal, I just won't know what that looks like.
so, yeah, so I guess my question is, and I don't know I don't exactly know what's there now, but if anything, stormwater, this is stormwater coming from the street, I assume.
I don't know.
It is a partial street there. There's a cul-de-sac, I believe. Laurel Lane or something.
Yeah, there's stormwater here from the street, certainly.
Do we know where that stormwater goes when it's collected?
It has to go into the creek. So
Okay.
I'm guessing it's routed from this pond to the creek.
Are there actually ponds there currently?
No, these are proposed.
No, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. If those ponds don't
No
exist,
funds.
and
It's,
if we have current stormwater drainage from the Laurel
Yeah.
Lane cul-de-sac.
Currently, it just comes from here straight down to the creek.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, because we're talking about removing some of those features, and that's gonna change some of the engineering underneath the ground.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you.
Next page, doesn't look like it has a lot likely to be controversial. Just to include a cross-access easement on the plat. Probably we're
Yeah.
going. Way.
Yes.
Not showing, no need to show public right-of-way lines across a public right-of-way. Again, that's probably a plat thing. Showing street right-of-way to include sidewalks. All the way out to the street.
Yes.
Again, I didn't know if this was needed as part of the park, but I'm sure you'll talk about that with the park board. With this area as public parking for the park. Oh, does building 8 have parking elsewhere?
And they just discussed that whole parking lot
Yes.
shown, really,
So it's underground parking for
and above ground.
all.
yes, underground parking. Yeah, underground.
Okay. Showing the park property line ending at the street right of way behind the sidewalk. Questioning if this was intended as a part of the park, public park, just because it was previously shown as private for the residents. And you're going to talk about that with the park board, I guess. A plat is appropriate, but plan commission already talked about that as a contingency of GIP approval. So I don't think there's much on this sheet to wrestle with. This is just noting some of these configurations of sidewalks / paths don't mesh with other drawings in this plan set. So just to resolve those inconsistencies of drawings.
On and above ground. Again, this is only conceptual. This is just showing the concept.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah,
not,
I'm just
you know,
asking
the
for it to be
GIP.
conceptually shown consistently, that's all.
Terrence, it just confuses council when we see multiple versions.
Level. Okay. Yeah,
Um,
try to
and
get the architect and engineer on the same page.
Yeah, no, I know. This is just kind of illustrating, with this.
Yep.
Very
Yep.
wide driveway apron and multiple truck docks right near a sidewalk,
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
in my eyes. I didn't have any notes, recommendations there. This again was just drawing the street right of way beyond the street sidewalk. And that, these trees couldn't be planted reasonably.
Because the slope
On the
is-
slope there.
Yeah.
But when it all gets reconfigured, maybe it'll be easier. And then it's a separate note about demonstrating the public need or want of this.
Yep.
So
One-
the park
one-
board-
Again,
park board will
Sean,
wrestle with that.
this is kind of out. Yeah, this is outside the purview of the engineering. Okay. Also, keep in mind that
Yeah.
the apartment units pay a park fee. You dedicate some park land, but then the rest will be paying a park fee in lieu of dedication. And those significant fees will be used to help the city acquire the Latitude Graphics site. So it's these fees that are gonna help get more parkland here in addition to the dedication that Bruce County is gonna provide.
Yeah, so it's not purely an engineering issue, it's a policy issue that engineering wrote. That's all. This was just looking at connectivity, and I think these comments are written elsewhere too, is that this connectivity isn't what's shown on other plan drawings, and we already talked about eliminating this crosswalk and moving this one to the intersection to sort of space these out a little bit better, wider, if you will. And that was it. So with that brief summary, that took just over an hour. I think the big questions for me of the committee are, which of those staff review recommendations does the committee endorse? Would the committee like to see struck or edited or added to, for starters?
I think the key was removing stormwater detention ponds. So,
Yeah, removing those from parkland is very important.
Okay.
Well, that might get into Water
Okay.
Resources Management Commission's consideration too. I don't know what the stormwater management plan is. I heard Terrence say they're not necessary, but
Well, it'd be
I would
piped.
feel more comfortable if the Water Resources Management Commission considered that more fully.
Right, well, I think that thing to keep in mind, and it depends on which committee it's at, but we really don't want, if it's going to council, we do not want stormwater ponds in city parks, new city parks.
Well, I thought one of the recommendations was going to be to remove all of the detail regarding the parkland and just leave it as parkland and leave it up to the city to decide how they wanted to configure the parkland. Wasn't that your earlier suggestion, Susan?
Yes, that is, but we still don't want the developer having to put stormwater ponds on parkland.
Well, that's fine.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll add committee recommendations 2 notes. I'm hearing consensus to not show stormwater ponds on public park. And even though it'll overlap, remove all detail elements from the city parkland.
Correct.
I think
Yeah.
that's,
Okay.
Question, Sean. Would on-street parking or sidewalks or bike paths, I'm not sure what some of these things are, be part of the road, or would they be part of parkland? Because I know in the one picture, it's a little gerrymandered, I would say. If I think it's the second to the last image.
Let me
You
go
know,
here.
it seems a little odd that all of those angled parking to just the top part of what we're calling parkland, and then the top part of Texas, type of feature going all the way up the public street, or not all the way up to the TCS
Yeah.
building. It just seems to me like that's a weird place for parkland to end,
I
is
think
at parking.
Sean's note on there already takes care of that. Don't include street right away in park.
Well, I guess he does.
Yeah.
We want to reaffirm for Sean. And I guess that would be one of the things that I would say. I definitely agree with that, because it seemed a little odd that was parkland was going all the way up to outside of the car parking area.
Yeah, I would suggest for the committee that it's going to be easiest to endorse all but the comments you want removed or edited or
Okay.
added to, because otherwise I'll have to rewrite all these in the minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. well,
This
then
was, again, this was just conceptual. It's showing the bike path, concept of a 10-foot wide bike path going north along the public street, connecting to the sidewalk, and that there be, hopefully the city would at some point continue that bike path on the, TCS and the Clausen property to get up to capture, the Meritor property and the other apartments up in that area and link a bike path down to the Conservancy. So it's just trying to show that as a concept, that's all.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good concept, Terrence. I don't know that I would consider it parkland though. Because bike
Yeah,
paths,
right. Well,
that's where we're getting confused.
Yeah, the plat will show that as public right of.
And Sean, did you noted it before, forget the term, where the watershed starts, you had a little dashed line that went through that parking lot. Did you have an explicit note that parking lot then the bottom part of the southern part of that parking lot crossed over into the area that was defined by the water study, whatever it was called, as being part of the,
Oh, I see.
so it's like either
That
the south part of that parking lot has to move upward, or the city has to agree that parking lot can move into that area
the environmental corridor.
in the environmental corridor. And I don't know if there's a specific note there.
Just that the city should consider not allowing buildings and parking lots
Okay,
in an environmental corridor. They might.
Yeah.
fine. That's
so again,
right.
that's on the Latitude Graphics. That's on the Latitude Graphics property. Parking lots are allowed in the environmental corridor. Buildings are not. But we can pull that back from the environmental corridor. Well, we're not going to show any detail in that park area, so we'll just pull that off altogether.
Are you pulling out the entire parking lot from that area?
Parkland, yes.
Yeah. We'll just take that off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I just wanna,
You can determine what it wants to do with it.
sure.
We'll take
Okay.
off.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Terrence.
Yeah.
Right. So, and as you're taking detail off and moving the right of way over to the street, this lot is going to need some frontage too, it occurred to me. On the public.
Yeah, no problem. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
So I added a couple notes there. Are there any notes you want deleted or edited?
Any changes you wish to make in any of these notes? I think we had consensus, or should have consensus, about the water and sewer utility planning study being done. Conceptually, we can argue about who's going to do it later, but conceptually, I certainly think that ought to be something as part of what we make a recommendation on.
Yes.
I know you commented on it. Did you actually, the angled parking right at that intersection in the center of everything, did you circle that on one of the drawings and say, did you say that
Yeah.
basically some of that, I know we talked about it, I just didn't know if there was a
Right there.
no there.
Yeah, just to avoid
parking.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get rid of that.
Okay, then I don't think I have any other things that I need to ask about.
Any other committee members for?
have Questions, comments, points to make with respect to the engineering comments here?
No, I'm fine with the comments.
I have a question here.
Okay,
These buildings in the front, right near the retail store, right in the front, where the truck has, truck route has access with, that's a two-way street, right?
yes. This public street is two-way.
Okay. And Sean, is there, I think Terrence already asked you this question, but is there some, some mandate on what it has to be? Because to me, it seems for a truck to back up onto a two-way street,
Well-
especially given the number of apartments and, other commercial properties which could have a lot of traffic coming in and out. Maybe we can say apartment residents, work, they go to work at 9, but if there are other businesses there or a hotel, their traffic timings may not necessarily be the same.
Right,
That-
yep.
That's going to be a very troublesome point, I think, that maybe the traffic impact analysis can shed some more light on, but having semis back up that street to make a right angle turn into the loading dock is going to be difficult at best, I would think.
And another question I had is,
Well,
I'm not,
just if this is,
yeah,
sorry, just before you move on, if it's okay. I just want to lay out the groundwork that, without truck loading dock, there is no store. There won't be a store, okay? They got to have a truck loading dock, just like lots of stores have truck loading docks. So you got to choose. You either want the store or you don't want the store. I mean, I'm just being blunt, but the reality is the store's got to have a loading dock.
oh, I want the store. I see the store every day, even though I've never been in. It's been a part of that. It's been part of that landscape for a long time. That's not the issue I have. The question I have is, of course, the TIA would probably throw up any issues there. It is quite a sharp turn in. And I am not sure how far away from it is, and if it would not just cause a traffic backup, but any potentials for accidents. If, for example, I don't necessarily drive slowly. So if there are other people like me accessing the street at, significant speeds, then yeah, there could be a problem. That was what I was talking about.
Yeah. Seth, do you have,
And
maybe Seth could
another question
comment
I
about,
had was
maybe Seth
the-
could comment
the-
about the hours of operation. I don't know about the truck hours of operation. Could be certain hours, Seth, I don't know.
The truck, it aligns with our store hours of operation. So we always communicate that with them. So it would be aligned. It wouldn't be earlier. It'd be aligned with the store operations because that's when we employ accordingly.
So there'd be deliveries on weekends as well, and if it aligns with the store's operational hours.
I'm sorry, appreciate the clarity on that. It's very rare that we actually receive shipments on the weekends because most of the haulers don't align for that. So, and we really discourage from that because that's usually our busier days. So we rarely receive, and we actually make it a policy. Very rarely will we make an exception for weekends just because we don't want to disrupt the customer experience and the distraction. So we try to put all staff on the floor versus during the week. So rarely is it weekends.
So Seth, would it be okay to say something like that, the store could limit it so that there's, no semis coming in from like 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. when the department traffic is exiting? Would that be something that would be reasonable because your store doesn't open till 10 anyway?
That is reasonable actually for us to talk through a little bit further. We probably could align with that because that is fairly consistent currently.
I feel like through that as design progresses, you'll see the turning angles and everything else for truck traffic. And that'll really clear it up as to what kind of obstruction, if any, there's going to be here.
Yeah, that should come out in the TIA analysis.
Yes.
All right, committee member, any other comments?
I know Guthrie had another point.
Yeah,
Gayatri?
I'm not sure exactly where the hotel or would be located and the apartments, but apart from this dog park, are there other areas for pet relief within the Donna Drive block? Because if there is no green area and there is so many apartments, I mean, unless you're making the whole apartment not pet friendly.
Yeah, so what typically is done is there's a limit on the number of total units that allow dogs. Typically it's, can be 25%, very typical. I'm not saying it is here, but you don't want your whole buildings, your entire building to be 100% allow pets. It would be just too much burdensome on the landscaping, but there's a lot of other green space here, internal and along the front of that private street for them to be able to walk dogs as well.
you, along the private street, you said?
This parking lot here.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
the
just
parking
this,
lot, yeah.
that's just this strip of grass between the phase 3 and phase 1 building, right?
Yes, but also along, the outside perimeter of the buildings as well. And then you've got, the dog park, you can go into the conservancy if you want, et cetera. But it just as far as dog relief, I think, really, you're talking about close proximity to the buildings, right?
Yeah. Well, this is Wisconsin. People are not necessarily always going to be walking their dogs to the conservancy or
Right.
dog park half a mile away,
Right.
especially at the at the middle of the night. So we know it's all about the convenience. We see it happen all the time. And given the commercial buildings and other places there, combined with
Yep.
the residential, it, as you said,
Right.
it could be a landscaping issue.
All right, other comments, points to make, committee members? All right, if not, Sean, this is going to be a rather difficult motion for someone to make to try to encapsulate all of the points that we've discussed in one motion. Do you need someone to try to do that, or can you do it based on our earlier comments and the notes that you have taken?
Yeah, well, so I'm suggesting that you endorse the staff recommendations. I didn't hear any edits or direction to remove staff recommendations, but to add 2 that I wrote down, which are don't show storm ponds on public park property and remove all detail elements from public park property.
Correct.
So we'll add those in. And then also to add on to the Plan Commission's 5 recommendations for contingencies, add on 3 other recommendations for contingencies, which also are in the plan comments, but they're not really plan elements, which are enumerated here for city approval of cross sections conforming to city standards, completion of a city study funded by the developer of the water and sewer systems, and that the plat should include also access restrictions consistent with the city's access management policy. And if the further consideration of new information shows that that's not appropriate, we can change that, or if the committee wants to change that right now, they may do so. I don't know what it means until the TIA is done.
All right, and does that, Sean, pick up the initial comments that were made with respect to the driveway entry point off Donna Drive, just kind of across the way from Culver's?
It would include that, yes. So the plat would actually show typically as little cross hatchings along the right-of-way frontage where driveways won't be allowed.
Yeah, so Sean, I think we should do the cross hatching, add that in your comment, and then we should make the comment so that the driveway is on the plan matches the existing driveway you said this evening.
Yes.
At the very least, that the plan is going to be modified that way, correct? But I still don't know what that means in terms of the existing plat access restriction with WISDOT, and secondarily, whether that has operational impacts from the TIA that the city may want to consider.
So I think you should let Matt Fleming look at that, the city attorney. So I'm certain that the driveway, Bruce Company has the right to that driveway, but I think to resolve this, I think Matt Fleming could take a look at that and give us some legal opinion. If you want to put that in your comment.
I'm not sure where it would best fit into the comment for a plat to include access restriction.
No, that you'll
For that,
have
that
Matt.
you refer to the city attorney for his comments with respect to that. That could be one of the bullet points for staff recommendations, could it not?
We could add that as an edit to that one
Yeah,
comment to
that's fine.
refer that to the city attorney.
And
I mean-
parents, can you I think it would help Matt or anybody who reviewed this if Verbecker could kind of update some of their drawings, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can get some of those drawings updated, clean up the parkland area, clean up
Yeah.
that entryway to make sure it matches the current parking lot configuration at the entrance. I think then a review by a city attorney will make a lot more sense.
That's a good idea.
So thank you.
All right, so then, Sean, are you content for your purposes of your minutes and whatever with what we have here, which appears to be committee consensus on these items, or do you want someone to try to roll all of this together in a motion?
If we could put it in the form of a motion, it's going to be helpful to the council, I think. So what I'll recommend is that the committee endorse all staff recommendations made on the Bruce Company redevelopment plan drawings dated 7/6 as included in the committee packets, except as further modified to edit the one staff recommendation about the driveway to the retail center on Donna Drive for consideration by the city attorney of potential change to that access location. That the committee add 2 recommendations to the previous staff recommendations to not show storm ponds on the public park and remove all detail elements from the public park. And that the committee endorse the plan commission recommended contingencies that they made on 7/13 for approval of the GIP rezoning with the following additional contingencies. City approval of cross sections, completion of the utility study, and plat to include access restrictions.
All right, who was it that I just heard made that motion?
I feel like it was me. I feel
All
like
right.
those were the words that I was thinking out loud, so.
And
All right.
on this last, let me just clarify on this
Second
last
to
bullet
Robert's
point.
motion?
Second, sorry.
I'll second. Don?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with respect to the motion?
I just want to clarify in this last bullet point, due to the referral now to the city attorney about access locations. Should this bullet point text just end with plat to include access restrictions, period?
I think we should let the city attorney give us some legal advice or give the city some legal advice on this matter.
And that's a different staff comment now? Yeah.
I don't think, Sean, that it hurts to leave it just the way it is, to tell you the truth, but.
Yeah, we can change it at a later date, but I feel like
If the city. attorney
leaving it
says
in there
that's
as a
bad.
part of the, and that's one of the things that Matt Fleming is going to probably consider a little bit too,
Okay.
if we give him some guidance in this area.
Oh, this is Terrence. I'd like to just understand something here. You know, if I don't want to play any games, Sean, Sean, I want you to tell us right now. If you're going to try to get rid of that driveway, they need to know that right now before they go spend $1 million on plans and get further into this. Because if that driveway is going away, they're not doing this. They're just going to redevelop where they are right now.
Sure. And I'd like to just be clear that this isn't a me thing. This is me looking at the city's adopted access management policy and a set of drawings that were turned in and saying, what are some issues that I notice with ordinance, with state law, with policy that should be brought to the attention of public decision makers?
Yeah, well, that's why we're getting the legal advice from Matt Fleming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And the committee and the common council.
So I don't think we're saying you're not gonna have the driveway you want, but there's just a question mark to say, what has to happen here? Does the policy need to be, is the policy already met? If not, what would allow it to work? Is there changes to the policy as it's applied in this particular thing, or are there changes to the design that could be easily made. I think we can compromise at the end and get something that's working, but we just don't even know if we don't know if there's a problem right now or not.
Right.
There could be
And so
parking lot.
I think
That
that's
part
where,
of it, yes.
yeah, I think that's where an attorney might be able to shed a little light on that.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion, committee members? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried, and this will be our recommendations back to this goes to the Plan Commission again now, correct, Sean?
Well, I'm gonna give it to Abby, who said she's gonna pull it together and get it straight to the council for August 3rd, I wanna say.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. All right,
And I just want to add that thank you for going through the points point by point with us and taking that time to do that so that Bruce Company can really understand all this, even though we went through it. You know, sometimes you can't really understand what, you know, I mean, I love what Sean does in terms of putting the comments right on the plans, by the way. That's very helpful. But we really appreciate just going through this with you point by point. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Yeah.
all right. Very good. Any other business committee members?
Well, that's the end of our agenda, so no.
Move we adjourn.
Thank you.
second,
Is there a second to the motion?
Susan second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those, is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we stand adjourned. Thank you all for your comments and your participation. Thank you, Terrence, for your comments and participation as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake.
Okay,